So, hello and welcome to the DIDIOTS podcast. We're doing a special Q&A, FAQ kind of thing today. Woo woo! We got questions from a bunch of different sources. We're going to be getting them from chat. We're going to be getting them, I have people from my personal, like, friends, like, on Facebook and things like that. Discords, whatever I'm in. Got questions from a bunch of different places. And we're going to be answering them. If we run out of questions, we're going to a DID blog that has some good questions. If we run out of those on there, we're going to look at the DID subreddit. And
It'll be oh, shit.
Oh, no.
Everything is fine. Don't worry about it.
Shit happens, man. Do you want me to read you the intro? So you don't have to edit that out? Or do you want to keep it in?
Let's just keep it in.
Let's just keep it in. That's all good. Perfect. It's fantastic.
Start the special episode off right.
Yep. The most common claim I see is that OMG, a psychiatrist has to diagnose you. Well, you know, Betty, someone I see every 20 minutes, every 3 months, isn't going to be able to do that versus a therapist who I see for an hour every week. They're going to have more of a concept of me than a psychiatrist is going to. And also, guess what? I'm also diagnosed by my psychiatrist. My psychiatrist knows about my DID.
We got diagnosed by our therapist, but our therapist had to diagnose us for our insurance.
Yeah.
Because the insurance was like...
You need a diagnostic code.
Think, like, you need a diagnosis to continue this, to continue being paid for this, having this
Which
therapy.
Is stupid. But go on.
And so she's just like, so I had to diagnose you. And that's how we got our diagnosis. We straight up thought it was going to take a hell of a lot longer to get our diagnosis.
Gotta love insurance.
Woo.
Because our thing is we have our main one. Because we started seeing her for, like, depression and stuff in 2015? Yeah, 2015. The DID came on, like, knowledge about the DID came on a lot later. We got the fake claim today of, which is an outdated statistic, of people don't know about their systems until their 30s. How are you diagnosed already? And I'm like, they have specifications in the DSM to diagnose children. You cannot be too young to have DID. Well, you can't.
Like,
well, you know what I mean.
Because you're not going to have this disorder is it forms in childhood.
Yeah, it forms between the ages of, like, before the ages of 7 to 9. So, like, how would I not? Literally, within months of getting out of our trauma environment, we were finding alters. Within months of leaving our trauma environment, they were like, "We're safe. We can show us now." And then something bad happened, and they were like, "Oh, we really have to show us now." And so they were just like, "Okay, here, have a little nugget of information." And I'm like, one alter, and then here we are in 2022, 150 something.
I feel that. Because we just, because we only found our system March of 2021. March 1st is when first contact happened. And, so it was a Monday night. And then Thursday of the following week, we were in therapy.
Gotta love that.
So we're like, this is concerning. Having audible conversations with people in your head, this is concerning. What the fuck is going on?
So this is the question that I was referencing to start the podcast was, speaking from someone who deals not only with personality disorders but also psychotic features, like can hear and see things that aren't there. How do you tell the difference between voices that are there and voices that are the alters? So the main thing for us is like hallucinations and psychosis is all external. So it's like you're actually hearing it. It's auditory. With DID and OSDD, it's all internal. So it's like just having another consciousness inside with obviously their own thoughts and feelings and etc. And it's having a peanut gallery in the back of your head all the time. Every day. And it's constant barroom chatter.
Before we like recognized what was going on, the thing that was that we would do is our internal thinking was always having a conversation.
Yeah. But
and now it's just constant chatter.
But it's very interesting because there are people, because DID and schizophrenia they are different, and you can have both. I know people with both. And they literally say that their hallucinations are external, the DID is internal. That is their distinction. And like some of them hallucinate their alters in the real world, which is really interesting. Which is like a interesting like tie with the psychosis in the DID that is really interesting. It's not to say like you're more likely to have one if you have the other. I don't think that's a thing. If it is a thing, I am not aware of it. But yeah, like people are like, that's just schizophrenia. I'm like, no, schizophrenia is a completely different disorder.
Yeah, it's completely like, again, as you said, it's hallucinations are like
they're just all
like external. You hear them outside.
Yeah,
like you hear someone talking to you out like another person is actually talking to you,
right,
rather than like another thought is entering your head that you aren't thinking.
Yeah. But someone also wants us to like, because one they get a lot is like, what's the difference between DID and OSDD? That one's a really common one. I think we touched on that a little bit just in like the first episode, just to talk about us. But DID, like with the dissociation spectrum, DID is at the far end of it. With normal neurotypical singlet at the other end. And OSDD is basically like, if DID is here, OSDD is like right here. It's DID, but not quite.
But like a little bit different.
But like a little bit different. Because DID you have amnesia and alters, while OSDD 1A you have less defined alters and amnesia. With 1B you have defined alters, no amnesia, which is y'all.
What we have.
Yee.
Gotta say, you'd think being able to remember everything that your alters do would help lessen denial, but oh boy, does remembering everything add to denial. Woo!
Oh yeah, buddy. Sure do. Gotta love, we remember some things and it just makes me go, am I faking? And then someone else in my head goes, I'm right here, you fucking idiot. And I'm like, thank you.
Every time anybody in the system starts like, oh, is this all just fake? Are we just faking this? Ajax just goes, I'm not fucking fake, asshole. Fuck you.
It's funny. a lot of people get the how many alters can someone have as well. So like that's like an unlimited amount. It is also depends on a lot of factors. It depends on like people have found in research. I'm not sure how up to date this research is that I'm talking, so don't take this. But it's like it has to do with like complexity of trauma, duration of trauma, type of trauma. If you have multiple types of trauma, like emotional, physical, religious, whatever, you're more likely to have more alters because of the complexity of it. Mm-hmm. Which it seems to make sense, but not to say like people with more alters are worse than people with less alters. It's just in a lot of cases, people who find them when they're older have already gone through what people think is discovering their system in their 20s shift in their system, because your brain is preparing itself for adult life, so it's literally shifting all of your alters, and we're literally going through that right now. We are 21, our brain is starting to finalize itself, and so we are fusing like a mother trucker. So a lot of these people who only have like 20-30 alters may have had more but didn't realize it because they didn't know about their system until later. And that's the thing, is a lot of younger people are polyfragmented because they haven't gone through that 20s change in their system yet.
Yeah, I see the claim all the time that like, oh, you can't be a minor and have more than have hundreds of alters. It's like
it's actually going to be more likely.
Like, kids have a lower capacity for handling shit.
And a lot of people
but when you have a
don't
disorder,
realize that teenagers are very often still in their trauma environments and actively splitting. We have so many alters that came out of dormancy from childhood, and that number's easily in the 100. Easily over 100.
Yeah, our system right now is in around 300, and that's still just been discovering people that have been here.
Yeah.
We have had very few recent splits. That's just been discovering people that are here from all of our trauma in our childhood.
Like, we have reasons to actively be splitting, so we're still splitting. And it's not fun. And people are like saying all this stuff about like, you can't get alters when you're older, and I'm like, yes you can. Once you have DID, you always have DID.
Yeah, once the brain knows how to split and alter, it's always going to have that coping mechanism, and it's always going to go, oh, that worked that one time, let me do it again. Yeah, it's always going to be capable of doing that.
Someone said, interesting, why us being 29, it feels like a whole bunch of us have already integrated. Yeah. It's before like around 25 is when that big system change happens, when your brain is becoming mature. Not to say your system won't change after that, but it's like changing for your adult life. Because your brain knows it's about to be done developing. And so it's like, okay, our brain's about to be done developing. We have to set these more in stone so we can be solidified for the rest of our life. We could also probably do an entire episode on this question. Is there a world in the headspace, landscapes, houses, etc.? Yes.
Yeah. Not every system is going to have a headspace, though. But at least for us, we do have a headspace.
Because on the dissociation spectrum, there's maladaptive daydreaming. And that is, like, where the inner world is constituted. So if they didn't maladaptive daydream a lot, they're less likely to have an inner world. In the research that we've done. And so when you have DID, you have the whole dissociation spectrum. Dissociation, derealization, depersonalization, maladaptive daydreaming, identity alteration. You have the whole shebang. But you can also fall on the spectrum of dissociation, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have DID, you have everything.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really shitty. Because it's like, the further you get down in the spectrum, you're like, buy more, get more free. Does DID OSDD count as neurodivergent? I believe so.
Yeah, because it's a neurological disorder as well, I believe.
Yeah, because you can see it in brain scans when people switch. So I think that would be a yes. Since it's so debilitating, how do you hold down a job? How are you not on medication? How are you in school? Things like that. 1, there's not a medication for DID. If there was a medication to stop the dissociation, I don't know if we would even take it.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how intricate the system is. And we hold down a job just like everyone else.
It's hard, also.
Yeah, it is difficult because no one wants to do the same thing.
It's not a walk in the park. That's for goddamn sure.
But like, open communication with our boss has been big. Like, we told her that we have DID, and so like she's cool. Like, if we have to like take off sometimes or whatever, just because of it. But like our she doesn't know what DID is, so she was just like, I'll have to look it up. But you were fortunate to what?
What did I say? You
said you were fortunate to something.
Oh yeah, I was fortunate that in our system we have a particular alter whose job it is to go to work and to do the job, and she likes our job. She hated our previous jobs.
Yeah.
A lot. She hates retail, but we have a really good job right now.
Yeah.
That she likes a lot. So that's how we can hold down a job, is because we have a really good one that we like.
Yeah, we also have a really good job that we like. It took a lot of looking to find a good job that we liked. Because a lot of people with DID don't have jobs. But you can live a completely normal life with DID. Normal. You can live a normal life with DID. You can have a job. You can go to school. We're going to college right now. It's hard. But we work with disability services at our university, so we have accommodations, so we can record our lectures. We can, we have an option for an attendance accommodation if we want it. We have extensions on deadlines, things like that, just because of our situation and our disability. And we can get our work early if we don't want to do extensions, things like that. It's simple little things to accommodate us to get our work done. And that's like the biggest thing on getting through school for us is thank you, disability services. Because my school has a decent disability services, but yeah, the terrain is not good for anyone that is not able-bodied, but what are some ways to deal with denial? I wish I could tell you.
Again, our biggest way is just that, again, every time anyone goes through having thoughts of denial, Ajax will come to the front and start saying, hey, fuck you, I'm not fake. Stop calling me fake. You calling me a faker? You saying I'm fake? You saying I'm not real? I'm right here. I'll punch you in the face. Fuck you. So when you have a 16-year-old berating you for thinking that you're faking it, it helps with denial at least in our experience.
Yeah. Every altar, if they're near the front when it happens, they're just like, really? Really, dude? We're right here.
It's like, bro, I'm right here.
So it's really the host a lot of the time that deals with it, and unfortunately, that's just part of the role. Unfortunately, that's just something that hosts deal with. A lot.
That's a fun little symptom of the disorder. Constant denial.
Yep. Even with a professional diagnosis that both of us have. So it keeps on rolling then? It sure does. The diagnosis doesn't help. Nope. Not in the slightest. Because our brain is like, what if you gaslit her into thinking you had DID? And we're like, you can't gaslight anybody if you tried.
What if you were just pretending the whole time? Just talking to yourself?
And that's the thing is, we would have full conversations with ourselves from, like, a very young age. Mm-hmm. And our parents were concerned. And I'm like, why didn't you do anything about it back then? They're like, I didn't know what it was.
We kept a journal, like a daily journal from like 2012 to 2017. And there's multiple entries being like, oh yeah, my friends are the voices in my head. I talk to people in my head all the time. I talk to myself all the time.
I still feel like we did something wrong on the test or something to get the DID. Yeah, that's us. Unfortunately, the denial, especially for hosts, is part of the shtick. Because like, even me as a co-host, because it's Carver now. Even me as like a co-host, I still get it. I think it's just part of being in the front all the time. Because the people who aren't in the front all the time and have really heavy amnesia, they're like, duh, we have this disorder.
Like, yeah, no shit.
They're like, yeah, we sure fucking do have this disorder. And then us in the front all the time who don't really remember the amnesia and forget that we're forgetting things, because amnesia is absolutely a thing documented in the DSM. And we're sitting here like, I didn't lose any time today. I absolutely didn't lose any time today. And then we actually look back and see that other people fronted and we're like, when the fuck?
It's like, when the fuck did you get here?
Yeah, Sarah and Lucy is like, nah, I'm not Ellie. This isn't fake. Yeah.
No, one thing also that helps with our denial is we were telling our boss about our disorder, and he was asking us questions, and we mentioned that some of our alters, like, depending on who's fronting, depends on, like, will change how our knees react, because our knees buckle all the time, and we don't know why. It's a very mysterious issue. But, like, some alters, the knees don't buckle for them. And we mentioned that, and he was just like, that makes so much goddamn sense!
For you guys, or for it, or just like, did he just like
he was
connect
just
something with himself?
That explains so much that I thought was so weird about why like your walk would change all the time, and why like you acted different all the time, and why I could never get a read on you. And we're just like, ooh, does this help the denial? Getting recognition from an outside party? Oh.
No one at work mentions it, but our voice changes all the time. And I don't know if anyone ever notices, because our boss didn't notice. But she's like usually
sometimes
back.
Are just too awkward to mention it.
Yeah, she's usually back in her office, so I don't think she would be the one to notice. But like, there are some coworkers that know and have like looked through the binder and like looked through and like asked questions about alters and stuff. There are some that follow us on TikTok, so like there are some coworkers we can be whoever around, but. Most of the time at work, even though we don't wear them, like, we don't mask, like, people just are like, Yeah, I don't notice. I'm just like, how are you not noticing when my voice is going from, hi, thank you for calling so-and-so, like, that's such an exaggeration because I can't mimic my fucking headmates to, like, thank you for calling. Just thank you for calling so-and-so.
Like, we'll go from talking like this, and then one of the guys will switch in, and our voice will go down here, and it's like, you're just not gonna say it. You can mention something. It's fine. You're not gonna mention, at least in it with like, you.
Sorry.
I feel like that's probably different for, like, different systems, like, whether or not they would get, like, offended.
Oh, I would not get offended. I would just be so
never get
freaked
offended
out.
if someone.
I
It's just like, oh shit, you noticed it? I didn't even notice it.
I would just be like, oh shit, cover blown. A cover we were. It's like a napkin on top of a tank.
Our cover's been blown.
Our cover's been blown. We are quite literally 150 monkeys in a trench coat. Let me pull up. I have some other questions. If I can find them. Okay. So the question, like, they're just curious when we got diagnosed, because they're a personal friend of ours. We got diagnosed in 2021 at the age of 20. It was before our birthday in 2021. So we got diagnosed at age 20 in 2021. We've known about the system and been medically recognized since 2018. So that's a thing.
I don't know when in 2021 we actually got diagnosed. I honestly don't even remember when it was that I found out that we were diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
But sometime in 2021 at 24.
That's fair. Did you know the whole time? No.
I found out March 1st of 2021.
Did you have any inkling before that? Because the first instance we had with hearing other voices was when we were 16. Like, we heard, like, consciously hearing other voices.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, we heard other voices and talked to each other before that.
Mm-hmm.
But I literally went to my therapist at 16 and said my anxiety and depression have different voices than I do internally. And then I came back to her with that after being diagnosed with DID, and I said, hey, this comment from several years ago makes sense now, doesn't it? And she said, yeah, it sure does. She's like, I didn't even think about that.
There were a couple moments throughout our life where I feel like if we had just known that the disorder existed,
mm-hmm.
and, like, what the disorder was, we probably would have figured it out.
What's worse, like, at age 12,
like, at age 12, we started having conversations with our character that we would roleplay. Like, Tia started having conversations with Lula. And, like,
actually, I think we had something before that. We were 13. Mm-hmm. We asked our math teacher we wrote on a paper, call me Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
She was an OC we had that we have an interject of. And she actually did, and it freaked us out. Because when she called on us for the paper, it wasn't Victoria. It was it was our birth name. Mm-hmm. And she, like, freaked out. I was like, I didn't write that. Like, she was, like, freaking out because she was like, I don't remember writing that. Like, no. So that actually, I think, is the first instance. We were, like, 13.
Yeah, we just started having conversations with this girl in our head. And we would sometimes talk about it. About having conversations with this girl in our head named Lula. That was our character that we were writing.
What is the
And then
weirdest reason someone tried to fake claim you for? We'll get to that one in a second.
yeah. That's a good one. And then that kind of like sort of stopped happening, like as frequently having like the conversations in my head. And then like I met at like I think age 18 or 19. I met another person with DID, and they were telling me about the disorder, and I started hearing that voice again in my head.
Oh, wow.
And I immediately went, no, shut up, not happening, that's not real.
Nope, absolutely not. No, thank you, I'm good.
No, thank you. And then I met another person with DID and started learning about the disorder. And then Dex came up, and he was like, hello. I have some news for you.
I have some news, buddy. Sorry, we're trying to open a ring pop, and it's been very difficult. But it's so weird, like, thinking back to, like, those moments where, like, we should have known something was up. But every other time it was just someone else fronting, and we just didn't know.
Oh, I just remembered another thing I did. I had my first therapist, which was a whole ordeal. But for I talked to him one day, and I was like, I have been doing this thing where I've kind of like personified my different like states of how I feel. And sometimes it feels like my body's getting taken over, but I didn't mention that part. But sometimes it feels like I literally can't control it.
It do be like that.
But it feels like there's like these outside influences that like influence me.
But yeah, so weirdest reason someone tried to fake claim you. We've gotten because we're fat, we've gotten because we're trans, we've gotten because we were diagnosed, we've gotten before we were diagnosed, though, because we weren't diagnosed. We've gotten having... So someone literally was commenting on someone else's thing, and it was said, having glasses. And I'm like, that's a weird one.
That is a weird one. Like, what's the correlation there? How is that working? How have you connected those dots? That
I have no idea. No
having
clue.
glasses means that you're faking your disorder. Oh man.
We've gotten because we can drive, we've gotten because we have a job, we've gotten a lot. We've gotten because we live on our own, we've gotten because a lot. I think if you name a reason to be fake claimed, we've probably been fake claimed for it.
Oh man, I remember we've been fake claimed because we've filmed a video where we switch in it.
We always set those to friends only. We never put those to the public on either account that we've ever had. Those were just too personal for us.
It's just like it's like oh, what was the other one? I think somebody once also fake claimed us. It's just like my partner who has is studying psychology thinks that it's highly unlikely that you have this disorder. It's like you're not our therapist.
Even if you have the qualifications, you are not in a contract with me. You do not see me enough to diagnose me with anything. Yeah. Yeah, because, like, supposedly having DID, you're supposed to be, like, bedridden and in so much pain and not be able to do anything. Literally.
Like,
because I'm trying to live a fulfilling life. Because I'm trying to live a fulfilling life. I can't have the disorder I have.
You're faking it because your alters have different voices. You're faking it because your alters are dating.
I've gotten that one a lot. I've been posting on FDC for that one. I've gotten in YouTube compilations for that one. What else is there?
I've gotten fake claimed for having an annoying voice.
Mood. That's hilarious, though. But no, it's... And the thing is, everyone's just like... I don't know if they're still saying it, but they're like, fatherless behavior. And I'm just like... My status of having a father is none of your business.
Who's saying I got daddy issues? What if I got mommy issues?
Everyone talks about mommy issues on TikTok, but not a lot of people talk about daddy issues. All the good audios are for moms, and I'm like, what the fuck's up with that? Like, what if my dad did shit? One we get a lot is like, how do you drive? Again, it's harder to do, but we do it.
We go into autopilot.
Uh-huh.
The body just kind of moves on its own, and alters can just have conversations.
That's about right. For us, like, most alters can drive. There are a couple littles that are, like, kind of bad at it, but can, if they have to. Like, if they get caught in the front, they're not going to wreck the car.
Here's a fun little tidbit. Most people dissociate when they drive. It's called highway hypnosis, and it's a form of dissociation.
Interesting.
It is an extremely common form of dissociation because guess what? Everybody dissociates. That's another weird fake claim, is saying that you dissociate means that you're faking it. And it's like, bruh, how does that make any sense? Literally everyone dissociates. Everyone dissociates. It came free with your fucking body.
How did you come up with your system name? Go.
Nora just came up one day and she was just like, if we are a system, which I think that we are because I'm pretty sure that I'm real, only in her British accent, and she's
But
like,
you have to have the Valley Girl with it.
She's just like, I think that a very pretty name would be Galaxius. And we're just like, yeah, that's pretty. That's cool. We like that.
We were the Starlight System. And then there were 7 of us. And then we were like, we all have C names. And there are 7 of us. The 7 C's system. And then we kept that. Because it's a funny pun. But it doesn't apply anymore. Funny. Literally 2 days after we named the system that, we fucking found an 8th person and we got pissed. We got so upset. But the video of her finding herself went semi-viral and we got posted on FTC for it, and it was a whole thing. Literally our first post.
Yes.
But let me pull up this DID blog. That's a repeat. Can you tell when a switch is coming on? Yes. Sometimes, yeah. There's sometimes where people just like drive by.
They just jump the front.
And they just jump front.
Feel it for a second.
Yeah.
Then leave.
But most of the time I can feel a switch coming on because we start dissociating, we start losing our words, our train of thought. We just go and it's basically just until we switch.
Mm-hmm. For us, it can be a little harder because, especially since switching for us is such a weird thing, because there's always so many people in the front. And, like, they can be, like, taken from the front to observation in, like, an instant, because they're very close together.
I forgot we had an observation, but go on.
And we also have, like, a gatekeeper whose specific job it is. Like, he is the black void mist that is our front room. Is our front room in observation. And so he can just cover an altar in mist so that no one can see them, and so that they're technically in observation. So, like, switches can be really weird for us, so it can be hard to, like, to tell all the time.
Oh my god, this is beside the point, but this DID blog. This person has 11 kids. Because they're like, can someone with DID parent? And said, I can't speak for others, but in our situation, we parent our 11 children together. Stop having kids!
How much money do you make
Jesus
to afford
Christ.
that many children? I'm not saying that.
Okay, well, there was not a lot of questions on that thing. I didn't look at that beforehand. It's only 11. Oh, come on. Cheaper by the dozen. Alright. Let's go to the DID subreddit.
Oh boy.
Oh, there's a whole r/DID FAQ. Cool.
Oh, nice.
Nope, and that's another topic for another day. Okay, that's about just FAQs about the subreddit.
The question is, how often do switches happen?
How often?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my water bottle. We switch fairly often. It just depends on the situation. I've been front a lot today, just because I've been allowed back. And that's just a thing, because I haven't been in the front really since I went dormant. Because even after coming back from dormancy, I was like not really in the front much. But now they're like, you can have a taste of the front. I'm like, okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
Delicious, thank you. For us, we definitely, like, again, it definitely does depend on the situation. Like, we don't switch all that often when we're at work. It'll usually be just, like, a handful of people. But, like, when we're in situations where we're, like, talking about system stuff, we switch a lot more.
I feel that.
Because then people are just like, again, it definitely does depend on the situation. Like, we don't switch all that often when we're at work. It'll usually be just like a handful of people. But like when we're in situations where we're like talking about system stuff, we switch a lot more.
Mm-hmm. I feel that.
Because then people are just like, I got shit to say. I'll put in my 2 cents on this topic.
Do your alters have a different perception of temperature? Yes. Mine do. Some of us get really hot really easily and will like almost pass out due to heat.
I think maybe not that we've like necessarily noticed.
Like, I know people,
because like our body in general is really sensitive to heat.
I know people who have alters who are accustomed to the cold because they were like locked outside.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that. So like it's pretty common, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
How do I introduce the topic of alters to my therapist? That's a loaded question, but a good question.
Third visit in, I just went, oh, hey, by the way, I've been trying to tell you this. I've been kind of trying to work up the nerve to tell you this for the past 3 visits. But I hear voices in my head, and they also take over my body sometimes. And I feel like I'm going crazy.
Well, for us, we told her we age regressed. Because that's what we thought we were doing. And eventually, the regress state developed a name. And we went to our therapist and said, you know how we regress? And just call him little? And like separated him from ourselves? She said, yeah. And I said, he has a name now. She said, oh? And I was like, yeah! She's like, do you experience any amnesia? And I was like, no, that I know of. And then later we found
Little
the
did
amnesia.
the poor know.
Little did the poor fucker know. Do you have alters who seek out memories as opposed to hiding them?
Some.
We have some that dig. We found an altar today that way. Because Mom brought up something, and I was like, we can't remember who did that, but we definitely remember that happened. And we were like, who did that? And we kept digging. And we heard a gatekeeper say, stop digging, or you're going to find somebody. And Carter was like, I'm gonna keep digging! And then he fronted. And we're like, this is... And it's just like, this is Pikachu surprise meme. How can you tell apart a fragment from an altar? Because that's more of a question I have. Because, like, our fragments are, like, very amorphous. They're, like, black shadows. That's how we see our fragments. That's how we know they're a fragment, is they're just amorphous.
I do not know where they hide the fragments.
That's fair. I don't know where they hide them, I just see them. They surround the outside. Our fragments look like
nice
star
part
bits
about
from
having
Mario.
a front room that's
Ooh.
a nebulous void, is I can hide things very easily.
Our fragments look like star bits from Mario. I like that.
That's adorable.
Better than amorphous shadows. A lot of these are like personal questions. Trying to figure out more questions.
Josiah?
How do you measure progress?
Progress has its ups and downs.
We look back and realize, because we have altars that come up and are like, we are in a completely different place than we were however many years ago. And a lot of the time, they're really proud of where we are. We have a couple that are, like, pissed. But that's their own prerogative. Do you ever feel like you're forgetting stuff as it's happening?
Sometimes I'll start a sentence and then forget that I started the sentence.
Yeah, because you don't have amnesia. This is probably not really as a thing for you. But there's a lot of time that we can tell that we're not going to remember something. We can tell that we're not going to remember it. Keep asking about the... I didn't see. Hold on. Is it your altar's voices or just thoughts? So, sometimes we hear them as our voice. Sometimes we hear them as their own. Sometimes, most of the time, we hear them as whoever's fronting, just as a masking coping mechanism. But when we front, it changes what the inner thoughts sound like.
For us, we do hear different, like... You can tell which different altar is speaking based on their voice.
Yeah. And a lot of times, for us, we just figure out who people are by their feeling. Because, like, DPDR, I don't know how depersonalization, derealization disorder experiences the world. But that's also, like, a really big, like, dissociation disorder, too. That people don't think about. Because, like, it's just, like, about some stuff. Our emotional protector forgot to tell us we were diagnosed for months. I'm weak. Oh, excuse me. Alright. Is there any final questions for us? Any final questions to wrap up tonight? Alright, I'm gonna close out of that. Alright. Last call for questions.
If you got your questions, ask them now. Whoa. Really feeling the drink de bois.
Excuse me. But, How do stop being DID? If I knew, I would tell you.
Oh, if only I knew.
If only I knew, baby. If only I knew. If we could all have our own individual bodies, it would make our life so much easier. We could clean our apartment because there would be 150 of us.
I have 300 motherfuckers to sit here and help me go to work. And go get their own jobs and get their own money.
Build a fucking commune. It's great. Alright.